Sometimes we need to vent as a leader, but it's best to vent either sideways or up. I'm Adrian from Adrian's Avenue, and I bring you information that's rich, relatable, and relevant that you can use every day with your leadership skills. Let's jump right in. Now, don't be afraid of the word venting. We all vent in various ways. Venting is different from complaining, though. I'm not talking about complaining. Complaining is going on and on about something that you feel like you can't do anything with. Venting is a moment of frustration that you just need to blow off some steam, let it off, get it out your system, and move on. So it's short and to the point, and it's over with just in a matter of minutes or so. Now, while venting is normal and actually healthy to get things off of your chest and let the steam out, you don't want to contain it and let it pile up and maybe turn into something massive. You don't want to do it too often. Make sure that you are venting when you need to, but not too often, because that can turn into complaining. When I vent for 3 different reasons. The first reason I vent is because I want someone to support my viewpoint. This may be right or wrong, but I want to be with a friend, be with someone who kind of thinks like I do, or at least will have compassion for what I'm feeling at the time. And so I will go to them and, pour my heart out, vent to them in hopes that they will support how I'm feeling and understand how I'm feeling and maybe give me some suggestions, but at least they understand where Adrian is coming from. The second reason I'll go and vent to someone is just because I want them to listen. I don't want them to necessarily support me. I just need to blow off some steam, and I just want someone to do it with. So I may go to an uninterested party that will keep the information confidential, but they won't give me yes or no or you're right or wrong, anything like that. They'll just listen and just listen to what I have to say so I can just get it off my chest. And believe it or not, the third reason I'll go and vent to someone is because I want them to give me a different perspective. I may go into their office and say, look, this is what happened, but I need a different way of looking at this. Can you help me present my case and let them talk back to me? And these are very special people that I go to that I know will give me a different perspective than where I'm coming from. They won't support my issue. They'll just let me know, well, let's look at it this way and see if you can understand it better this way. But that's the third reason I'll go and vent to someone. Now, the biggest thing in venting, let me caution you, is who you vent to. You want to vent to a person that you trust, that you think your information will be safe, that you know that they won't take the information and do something with it that will come against you. So make sure that you are venting to people that you actually trust with what's on your mind, what's on your heart, what you need to get out. And these are the folks that you want to vent to. Now let's talk about venting sideways. When I mean venting sideways is I'm talking about venting to your peers, people on your same level, maybe another supervisor, maybe another leader of a team, but it's someone who's at that same level that would probably be able to understand what you're going through. And so these are the sideways venters, but you still want to make sure that your information will be somebody that you trust and will be kept confidential if you want to be kept confidential with that person. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I had an employee that I was counseling about her performance, and she wasn't taking things seriously with me. During one of our meetings, and this is like the 3rd or 4th meeting that I'm having with her, she brings her phone in and she gets a phone call, and she actually answers. She looks at her phone and she actually answers the phone while we're sitting there talking about her performance. And so, of course, this didn't set well with me. I ended the meeting at that point in time. And when she left, I needed to vent, okay? Just to say the least, I needed to vent about this. And so I did go to a peer and vent about it. And it was something that I didn't necessarily want anybody to get on my side. I knew she was wrong. She shouldn't be doing that. But I just needed to vent and get it off my chest. And once it was over with, we got back and met again, and we talked about that situation as well as her performance coming in. So these are some things that your peers can probably hear you on and help you with. So venting sideways is very important when you're venting. Also, another thing you can do is if you don't want to vent within your company, say if you don't trust people well enough, or if it's something a little more confidential that you just don't want to bring up and discuss with a peer, you could vent outside. Some folks go home to their families and vent. friends to vent. And those friends could be on the same level, such as a manager or a supervisor. So they could be a good source to vent to, but make sure you trust that person before you start venting to them about the incidences that you have at work that you're frustrated about and need to get off your chest. Let's talk about venting up. Venting up is venting to actually your superior, your supervisor, your boss, the person that's over you. Be careful with this. You don't want to vent too much to them, but if something happens or if they see something happens and they see your facial expression, they may call you in. They may call the whole group of supervisors that they are over in to talk about what just happened. Tell me your feelings and that type of thing. If you're asked, by all means, be honest. Don't get too passionate unless it's something that you really need to be passionate about. But have your say and get it over with. Don't let it turn into a complaining session. So just be careful about venting up. But that is another way and an outlet for you to vent also. Now, before I finish with the last who not to vent to, I want you to hit that like button and that subscribe button so you can be kept up to date on the latest information as it becomes available to you. Now, the folks that you never, ever, ever, ever want to vent to is your team members. The people that you supervise. Never vent down. Never vent down. Repeat after me. Never vent down. This has no benefit to your team whatsoever. Venting down could potentially label you as a complainer in their eyesight. So you don't want to do that, be a complainer, because this is something, you're the example, and by venting to them every time something goes wrong, or even occasionally when something goes wrong, you can be labeled as a complainer, and you are their leader being labeled as that complainer. By venting down, you may say something that they don't need to know or they don't need to hear. And so you have to be very careful with your words when you're venting to someone such as a team member that you're supervising. So it's best, don't even open up that box. Don't go down that route and you won't have to worry about it. Plus, they don't need to bear your frustrations as a leader. They have other things to do. They have their job. You could be a distraction from them by venting to them. They may start thinking about this, but these frustrations are yours and you do not need to put these frustrations on your team. And the last thing I tell you, that venting down to your team, it could kind of destroy your reputation as their supervisor, their trust in you, looking to you as a leader. So this is something that you just don't want to do. You don't want to open that up. You don't want to risk it. So just do not vent down to your team members. Well, there you have it. Now you know, only vent sideways or up, never vent down. Get that pressure off. It's healthy, it's normal, it's natural, but make sure you vent to the right people.